Well, Parliament says everything is ready for tonight's State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa at the Cape Town City Hall this evening. The business sector will be watching to see what the President will say and what he'll say about the economy, unemployment and bridging the gap between business and government. George Sebulela is the President of the African United Business Confederation. George, good day to you, and I know you've taken some time out from the mining indaba to speak to us, so thank you. What would you like to hear from the President tonight?
Stephen, thank you so much for inviting us. It's always a pleasure to be in your program. I need to probably highlight that the South Africa is faced with multiple of challenges. Some of those challenges are already mentioned earlier in a number of interviews you have made. Unemployment rate is always concerning, particularly for the youth. So job creation has to be on top of the agenda. Excellent. Corruption activities stifle our economy, and we would like to see and understand the progress that the government has made and is going to do to make sure that it's protected. Thirdly, the poor health system in the country. We want to hear this implementation of NHI. The minister has assured us that progress is going to be accelerated. We would like to see that happening. Poverty and inequality in this country continues. There's still the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And that is a critical point in order for us to progress in this country. The insecurity, which is issues of robbery, rape, car hijacking, and murder, still a very, very greater concern for this country. People are not safe, and we would like to see the security cluster to be united and, exerting pressure and making sure that the numbers are decreasing tremendously. The collapsing state capacity, we're talking electricity, rail, ports, and water system recently. We would like to see those issues to be addressed because they have a direct negative impact in the economic growth of this country. And then obviously, we haven't seen any progress from the what we call the special exclusion. This is where the poor, if you recall, during the apartheid, the blacks are living in remote areas with limited access to resources and no opportunities for them. And this is where the capacity of the state through the municipalities comes in. I was quite impressed when I had a lady says, probably what we need to do is to capacitate the municipality because it's an implementing agent. And we must ensure that the right skill has been put in place so that we can see some form of progress. So if you say what we expect also the president to address is what is the progress of State Bank? We have a number of times was mentioned that State Bank will be launched as soon as possible to ensure that the fast tracking of SMME development is taking place.
So,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just a few things, if I may. Many business organizations oppose the NHI. You want the NHI. Within the NHI that you would like to see, would that include a ban on medical aids? I realize it's quite a contentious issue in some ways, but would you push the NHI that strongly, that medical aids would be banned?
In honesty, what is key is access to good health system. So the manner in which NHI was introduced, we did not see any challenges. I think we all know that the cost of medical aid is quite high. Very few will be able to afford medical aid. And therefore, probably the challenges that the big business is facing in the health sector, particularly in the medical aid system, is the concern that the numbers is going to drop because everybody now has an access to that health system. So we're not even much more concerned about the profitability of the private sector, but we're concerned that the health system must be accessible. If it's going to impact it's going to impact on the profitability of the big business. Let it be so, as long as we know that we have got now universal care.
Okay.
That's where we sit.
No, sure. It's interesting, and the reason I bring it up is that many other business groups oppose it, you support it, and that's what makes it interesting. You talk about a state bank. I don't know if you've been following what's been happening with Itala, which is technically owned and controlled by the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government. The Prudential Authority says that it is not sort of running properly, that it basically needs to be shut down. Do you have a view on that? I mean, many people have suggested Itala would be the beginning, or already sort of is a kind of state bank. I mean, would you support Itala then?
Look, I mean, the concern, as I read, and this is a very important announcement we expect from the Minister of Finance for clarity in the position, based on the position of Itala, is that banks generally are regulated, and there's a minimum threshold or minimum capital adequacy that the bank has to maintain. And in this particular instance, it sounded like for the protection of the deposit and the administration of the bank was not properly run. And therefore, they have a duty to protect the depositors. You saw what happened with the
VBS.
The bank, the VBS bank. And that's really the protection of depositors, because what you don't want to see is you see the people becoming vulnerable when they, in essence, were saving their money, relying on the bank to grow their investments. And that's really the scenario. So if it was issues of compliance, we definitely would always support a regulator to make sure that the compliance is met. And if it was not, it had nothing to do with compliance for whatever reason, obviously, once we understand the details, we can be able to issue a position in that regard.
No, that makes sense to me. Mr. Sebulela, you spoke about government and services, and I scratch my head and I worry about local government. And for many businesses, your members, I'm sure, they rely on services from local government. You usually often get electricity from local government. You get water from local government. You'll have potholes and roads because of local government. And we all know this needs to be fixed. I mean, can you imagine having a business just outside a massive pothole? You know, people won't come to you. The problem is that in many councils, the politics is why they're run like that. And I don't know if the president can fix that. I mean, do you think maybe there needs to be a change there?
Yeah, it's really a very, very quite difficult situation. I mean, you have seen what happened, for example, in the city of Johannesburg on multiple of mayors being changed because of, motion of no confidence, literally in very short days. I think the reality is what we will always request from the politicians, the leaders in politics. We would always say it sometimes doesn't matter which political party you come from, but once you are have taken a view to elect a particular candidate to lead, let's make sure that it is the right candidate. Secondly, let's make sure that we are all committed to ensure that it should not be in the benefit of the citizens. We have to develop this country because we all get suffered, by the way. If there is non-delivery of services, as you mentioned, we all get to be punished. And therefore, in the interest of the development of the country, I think it is, it is really, really depend upon our interest of developing the country such that we can reduce, as I say, the triple P challenges that we always face: unemployment, poverty alleviation, and so on. So that's, I think it's and the better we can begin to capacitate the municipalities. I do not see us growing the economy if we are unable to provide basic services like water. And that's where the challenge we're facing as a country.
George Sebulela, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts. Really appreciate the time. The President of the African United Business Confederation. Well,